Have you ever noticed that the loudest people often feel the most lost? They speak quickly, they react instantly, they fill every silence, yet somehow, nothing feels settled inside them. Here's a quieter question. When was the last time you felt truly in control, not of other people, not of circumstances, but of your own mind? Most men don't lose their strength all at once. They lose it gradually, through noise, through distraction, through reacting to everything that doesn't deserve their energy. They think strength comes from pushing harder, thinking more, talking faster, doing everything at once. But that belief is exactly what drains them. The Stoics saw this clearly. They didn't chase intensity, they chased clarity. They understood something uncomfortable but freeing. A restless mind is not a powerful mind, it's a crowded one. Look around. Opinions are everywhere, reactions are instant. Everyone feels compelled to comment, explain, defend, respond. And in that chaos, focus disappears. Men wake up already tired, their thoughts racing before their feet hit the floor, their attention split in 10 directions before breakfast, not because life is unbearable, but because their minds are untrained. Here's the quiet truth. Thinking more does not mean thinking better. Talking more does not mean being stronger. Doing more does not mean moving forward. Often, it means the opposite. Strength begins when you remove what doesn't matter. The Stoics didn't try to control the world. They worked on the only place control actually exists. The space between stimulus and response. That space is everything. Most suffering isn't created by events, it's created by interpretation. A single thought shows up, it goes unexamined, and suddenly it feels like reality. I'm behind. I'm failing. This shouldn't be happening. The thought feels real, so the body reacts. Tension, anxiety, urgency, and before you realize it, the mind is running the show. Stoic philosophy never tried to eliminate thoughts. That's impossible. Instead, it taught men to step back, to see thoughts as weather, not commands. Clouds pass, storms move through, the sky remains. You are not your thoughts, you are the awareness watching them. That realization alone changes everything, because once you stop obeying every thought, you regain choice, and choice is power. Now here's where most men struggle. Silence. Silence feels uncomfortable at first. It exposes what distraction was hiding. So they fill it, with words, with opinions, with noise. But silence is where clarity lives. A man who talks constantly gives away his center. A man who reacts instantly gives away control. Stoic men moved differently. They listened longer than they spoke. They observed before they judged. They paused before responding. Not because they were passive, but because they were deliberate. Every unnecessary word weakens presence. Every unnecessary reaction scatters energy. Think about the men you respect most. They don't explain themselves endlessly. They don't chase validation. They don't need to dominate conversations. They're calm, measured, grounded. Their strength doesn't come from volume. It comes from restraint. Restraint is not suppression, it's discipline. It's knowing when not to speak, when not to react, when not to follow every thought. This is where true focus begins. Focus isn't forcing attention, it's removing interference. When you stop feeding the noise, what matters becomes obvious. What deserves energy becomes clear. The Stoics trained themselves daily in this, not with grand gestures, but with small, repeated acts of awareness. Pause before reacting, question a thought before believing it, choose silence when words add no value. These are not dramatic habits, but they build an unshakable core. A man who thinks less but more precisely, talks less but with intention, focuses more on what actually moves his life forward. That man becomes difficult to manipulate, difficult to provoke, difficult to derail. He doesn't rush, he doesn't panic, he doesn't need to prove himself. And that quiet steadiness, it shows in how he walks, how he listens, how he chooses. Before we go deeper, sit with this question. How much of your energy is spent reacting, and how much is spent choosing?
Once you understand that thoughts are not orders, a new responsibility appears. Choice. And choice can feel heavier than chaos, because chaos lets you blame. Choice forces you to own. Most people don't suffer because life is cruel. They suffer because they never learned how to sit with discomfort without running. So they chase relief, distraction, validation, reassurance, anything to quiet the unease. But Stoic strength is built differently. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this feeling? They asked, what is this feeling teaching me? There is power in staying present with discomfort, not indulging it, not fighting it, observing it. Anxiety weakens when it isn't fed. Fear shrinks when it isn't dramatized. Anger dissolves when it isn't rehearsed. Most emotions don't need solutions, they need space. Yet modern men are trained to do the opposite, to explain immediately, to react publicly, to broadcast internal conflict before it's understood. But expression without understanding is just noise. The Stoics practiced internal dialogue before external action. They questioned themselves quietly. Is this within my control? Is my reaction improving anything? Would a calmer mind see this differently? These questions act like filters. They slow the moment. They restore perspective. They prevent self-betrayal. Because reacting impulsively often feels honest, but it's rarely wise. Discipline is not denying emotion. It's deciding which emotions deserve behavior. A man who acts on every feeling becomes predictable, and predictability is a weakness. Life tests men through friction, disrespect, delay, loss, uncertainty. You don't grow by avoiding these. You grow by meeting them without losing yourself. Stoics trained for pressure the way warriors trained for battle, not by imagining victory, but by preparing for difficulty. They rehearsed setbacks in their minds, not to suffer in advance, but to reduce surprise. When hardship arrives, the untrained mind panics. The trained mind recognizes the terrain. This is difficult, yes, but not unfamiliar. And in that familiarity, calm survives. Here is something rarely said. Calm is not weakness. It's a strategic advantage. A calm man sees options. A reactive man sees only threats. Most conflicts escalate not because they're serious, but because someone refuses to pause, refuses to let the moment breathe. Stoicism teaches patience without passivity. You can be firm without being loud, strong without being hostile, certain without being rushed. In fact, urgency is often the enemy of truth. If something requires immediate reaction, it's usually fear speaking. The Stoic response is not delay for the sake of delay, it's delay for the sake of clarity. A few seconds of silence can prevent years of regret. That pause between feeling and action is where character reveals itself. And character is not built in comfort. It's built when no one is watching, when restraint is chosen, even though reaction would be easier, when ego is held back, not indulged. This is why Stoics valued self-mastery above external success, because money can be lost, status can shift, approval fades, but a disciplined mind becomes a refuge, no matter where you are, no matter what happens. You stop chasing peace from outside. You stop needing perfect conditions. You stop being controlled by every emotional surge. Instead, you carry stillness with you, and that stillness begins to shape everything. Your decisions sharpen, your presence deepens, your words carry more weight because there are fewer of them. People notice, even if they don't understand why. They feel safe around calm. They respect restraint. They sense control. But this path is quiet. There are no applause moments, no instant rewards, only a gradual strengthening, like muscle built through repetition. Daily awareness, daily restraint, daily choice. And slowly, without fanfare, you stop being ruled by your mind. You start leading it.
Eventually, something changes. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but one day you notice you're no longer pulled the same way. The things that once disturbed you now pass through without staying. The words that once provoked you now lose their grip. You haven't become numb, you've become anchored. This is the stage most people never reach, because it requires letting go of a powerful addiction, the need to be understood. Most men want recognition for their struggle. They want others to validate their restraint. But the Stoic path is different. You learn to act correctly even when no one notices, even when it costs you approval, even when silence feels uncomfortable. Especially then. Marcus Aurelius warned against outsourcing your peace. The moment your calm depends on how others treat you, you've surrendered control. So the final discipline is this: detachment without coldness, engagement without attachment. You still care, but you are no longer consumed. You still love, but you do not cling. You still act, but you are not desperate for outcomes. This is not indifference, it's maturity. A Stoic man stops asking, "Did this go the way I wanted?" and starts asking, "Did I act in alignment with who I chose to be?" That single shift simplifies life. Success becomes secondary. Failure becomes instructional. Criticism becomes noise. You no longer need to win every interaction. You no longer need to be right. You need only to be consistent with your values. Here's the paradox most never realize. The less you try to control others, the more influence you quietly gain. People feel it. Your presence steadies the room. Your reactions don't inflate drama. Your silence carries confidence. You don't rush to speak, and when you do, people listen because they've learned your words are measured. This level of calm intimidates the insecure. It confuses the chaotic, but it attracts those who value depth. Because inner order is rare, and rarity creates gravity. At this stage, even your struggles change shape. Pain doesn't disappear, it refines. Loss becomes sharpening. Pressure becomes clarity. Loneliness becomes space to strengthen identity. You stop asking life to be easier. You ask yourself to be stronger. Not louder, not harder, but clearer. Clear in thought, clear in intent, clear in direction. And clarity brings peace, not the fragile kind, but the kind that holds under weight, the kind that doesn't break when plans do. This is the quiet victory. No crowd, no applause, no announcement. Just a man who governs his inner world so the outer one no longer rules him. And from that place, you no longer chase stability. You are it.